They never said it out loud, but in my family I was only welcome as long as I stayed useful and out of the frame. My name is Grace Blake. I'm 29 years old, the oldest of three. I have a younger sister Rachel and a baby brother Eli. And for most of my life, I believed that if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet long enough, and helped often enough, maybe they'd let me exist in the picture too. Caroline, our mother, was the kind of woman who knew exactly what to say when people were watching. She had a talent for saying just enough to make us look polished. Rachel was her mirror-poised, photogenic soft where I was sharp. Rachel was the kind of daughter who fit on mantles and holiday cards. I was the one who took the photo, then drove someone to the airport, then picked up the dry cleaning on the way home. Eli, the youngest, was a quiet soul, kind, observant, and often forgotten in the emotional tug-of-war between Mom and Rachel. He stayed out of the line of fire. I never blamed him. From the outside, we were normal. People said so all the time. Such a lovely family. Your girls are beautiful, Caroline. We had the posed smiles, the Christmas cards, the photos in matching sweaters. But inside, I carried the weight of everyone's mistakes like it was my duty. When Rachel dropped out of her first job and needed a rent extension, I wired the money. When Mom forgot to pay the electric bill twice, I covered it without a word. They never thanked me. Not once. Not even a nod. And still, I kept thinking maybe one day they'd turn their heads and see me standing there, not as a shadow, not as a fixer, just Grace. Instead, the only time Mom ever really looked at me was when she adjusted my collar and said, "Why don't you try smiling a little more? You look severe in pictures." So I started stepping out of them, quietly. No one noticed. Not then. Not yet. Rachel got engaged on a Wednesday. I remember because I was in line at the pharmacy holding a bottle of shampoo and half listening to a toddler scream 2 aisles over when the text came through. A photo of her ring and the caption, "He did it." We weren't close, but I was happy for her. I texted back a sincere congratulations, asked how he proposed, told her I'd love to help with anything she needed. I even offered to cover part of the honeymoon quietly without announcement. Just a gift. Rachel didn't reply right away. When she did, it was one word TX. I let it go. Maybe she was overwhelmed. 2 weeks later, while I was finishing up emails at work, my phone rang. It was Mom Caroline Blake. Her name lit up the screen, and for a second I thought maybe she was calling to invite me to something. I picked up. She didn't say hello. "Don't even think about showing up to the wedding." Her voice was sharp, final. I blinked. I wasn't planning to make a speech or wear white mom. I was just going to show up. "Exactly," she said. Then her tone shifted into that syrupy softness she always used when saying something cruel. "Grace, you've never exactly looked the part. You dress like you're on your way to a job interview, an underpaid one, and you hover. It's unsettling." I felt the words slide under my skin. Every old bruise waking up at once. Then, from somewhere nearby, I heard Rachel's voice, light and laughing like none of this was real. "Tell her she can send a gift, though. She's still good for that, right?" I didn't say much after that. Just sat there, hand resting on the edge of my desk. All those years, all that effort, the money, the favors, the things I didn't say, the things I didn't ask for. All of it, and now I wasn't even allowed to sit in the background. I was the stain on their perfect photo. The one they didn't want to Photoshop. Just erase. And the worst part, they didn't even think I'd question it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or call back or send a long, angry message. I didn't ask why. I already knew. Somewhere deep down, I'd always known. Instead, I smiled. It was the same smile I used to give managers who assumed I'd stay late without asking. A small, practiced thing. The kind of smile that lets people think you're folding when really you've already stepped away. That night, I logged into the travel portal where I'd scheduled Rachel's honeymoon package. I'd sent the Ford $200 transfer weeks ago, a quiet gift no one asked for, but that I thought might finally stitch me into the fabric of their lives. I reversed it in under 10 seconds. Then I took a screenshot. No caption, no anger. I sent it to Mom. A moment later, I added 4 words I wouldn't want to ruin anything. I knew she saw it. She always reads her messages even when she doesn't reply. That was the first step. Not revenge, just disengagement. Afterward, I closed my laptop, made myself tea, and sat on the couch in silence. Not the kind that screams or echoes, but the kind that hums gently when something's finally been put down. Later that night, I opened a folder I hadn't touched in months, my investment files. A while ago, after COVID shuttered half the events industry, I'd quietly bought into a handful of struggling venues. One of them stood out. Rosehaven Estate, white gazebo, manicured lawns, overpriced brunches, and Rachel's most recent Instagram post had it tagged with a giddy caption. Finally booked my dream venue, I stared at the screen, unmoving. Then I opened the contract, cross-checked the address, pulled the internal memo, confirmed my authority. Not only did I partially own Rosehaven, I had final approval power over all large-scale events, including weddings. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel anything yet. I just sat there, tea growing cold, thinking she booked a place I built. And still, they think I don't belong in the picture. I didn't rush. The next morning, I took my time, showered slowly, brewed good coffee, opened the Rosehaven documents one by one, like I was laying out linens. I wasn't angry, just attentive. In a way, I hadn't allowed myself to be for a long time. The reservation for Rachel's wedding had been confirmed. The guest count, the catering details, even the string quartet, they were all there. The contract was signed 6 months ago under Jason's name, her fiancé. That's when I saw it. Page 9, line 15. A clause I'd insisted on including when we restructured after the pandemic, full payment due 10 calendar days prior to scheduled event. Failure to comply constitutes forfeiture of booking without refund. Not delay, not penalty. Forfeiture. I checked the wedding date again, April 27th. Today was the 15th. 12 days. I clicked through the payment history. The deposit had gone through months ago, but the final payment, the one that locked everything in, was missing. It hadn't even been initiated. I leaned back, fingers laced over my stomach, and stared at the ceiling. I could have texted Rachel. Just a simple line, "Hey, your balance is due." But the echo of her voice was still there, laughing just off screen. Tell her she can still send a gift. So I did nothing, not out of spite, out of clarity. I didn't need to move any pieces. The board was already set. They thought I was out of the game, but I owned the table. For the next 2 days, I watched as Rachel posted dress fittings, centerpiece options, group chats filled with RSVP gifts. I watched Mom upload countdown photos to Facebook. 12 days until our baby girl walks down the aisle, no one contacted me. No one even pretended. And yet, part of me kept glancing at my phone, expecting something. Not an apology, just a flicker of recognition. A maybe, a crack in the silence. But there was nothing, just the old hum of being unseen, the one I'd known all my life. Only this time I wasn't reaching for the light. I was letting them sit in the dark. On the morning of April 17th, I let myself sleep in. When I woke, the sky was soft and gray, the kind of weather that made you want to stay quiet. I made breakfast eggs, toast, nothing fancy, and checked my inbox with a calm I didn't fully trust. Still no payment, no message, just silence. Around noon, Emma called. She's the senior coordinator at Rosehaven and one of the few people in this business I trust. She didn't know the whole story, only that the Carson wedding, Rachel had taken Jason's last name early. Even on the booking, hadn't paid their final balance. Her tone was light, but I heard the tension under it. "Hey, Grace, just following up on the Carson account. I've sent 2 reminders. No response. We're inside the 10-day window now, just wanted to check how you'd like to proceed." I didn't pause. "Follow the contract," I said. Emma hesitated. "You sure they've got vendors lined up? A whole Dove release during vows. It's elaborate." "So are the rules," I replied. She gave a soft laugh. "All right, deadline's midnight." I hung up and stared at my phone for a long while. Not out of doubt, but habit. I'd spent so many years anticipating their chaos, prepping for emergencies that weren't mine, plugging holes no one thanked me for fixing. But this time, I didn't move. I didn't warn them. I didn't send a nudge or a gentle reminder or a quiet rescue. They'd made it clear I wasn't family, not photo-worthy, not invitation-worthy, just a bank account with legs. So I let the clock run out. That night, at 12:01 a.m., the booking was automatically marked as void in our system. A clean flag. The space was now officially closed to them. I didn't celebrate. I just turned off the lights, brushed my teeth, and went to bed early. It was the first time in years I'd slept without checking my phone for someone else's emergency. And for the first time, I was the only one awake in my story. The next afternoon, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again, same number. I picked up on the third try. "Hi, is this Grace?" the woman asked, breathless. "This is Teresa. I'm Rachel's wedding planner. We're just trying to sort out a little issue with Rosehaven. There seems to have been a payment error. We think it's a glitch." I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window. "There's no glitch, Teresa. The final payment deadline was yesterday. The account wasn't settled. The booking was released automatically." Silence. I could hear something muffled in the background, raised voices, a slammed door maybe. Then she came back on her tone thinner. "But surely there's something we can do. It's her wedding day. Guests are flying in." "I understand," I said gently. "But the contract is the contract. You've already been given 2 reminders." She stammered something I didn't catch. Then hung up. Not even an hour passed before Caroline called. "Grace?" No hello. No pause. "What is going on with the venue? Rachel is hysterical. They said the booking was canceled because of you." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cancel anything. They missed a deadline. The system handled the rest." "But you knew," she snapped. "You could have said something." "You mean I could have stepped in and fixed it again like always?" There was a long beat of static. Then her voice turned cold. "Do you really hate your sister that much?" "No," I said slowly. "I just finally stopped letting you treat me like I'm disposable." I could hear her breath catch. "You said I'd ruin the photos, so I took myself out of the picture." She didn't respond, just hung up. A few minutes later, Rachel texted me. No greeting, no emoji. Just, "You seriously couldn't have warned us." Then a second message. "Wow, bitter much." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because the venue was gone. The vendors were pulling out. The doves were staying in their cages. And they still didn't know I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Saturday arrived with the kind of weather brides dream about. Cool air, pale sun, the lake at Rosehaven still as glass, soft wind threading through early spring blossoms. I woke up early not out of anxiety, but out of something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or peace. I brewed coffee, ironed a shirt I had no plans to wear, sat by the window, feet tucked under me, and watched as it all began to fall apart. The first post came from one of Rachel's bridesmaids. A selfie-confused expression car window behind her. "Is the venue locked? No one's answering the gate." I refreshed the tag. Another post-groomsman pacing beside rental cars. A little girl asleep in the back seat, tiara slipping sideways. Rachel's college roommate asking if she'd gotten the wrong date. The gate remained closed. No one had warned the guests. That was the part I hadn't expected. I thought Rachel or Mom would at least send a last-minute cancellation text, try to save face. But they didn't. They were so sure someone would show up and fix it. They were still waiting for the cleanup crew. Then came the post that made me smile. A series of professional photos posted by Emma Rosehaven's coordinator. Long tables draped in white. A dessert bar under a custom arch. A pyramid of champagne glasses. The caption read, "Honored to host a beautiful spring luncheon today for a thriving local team. Hashtag private event corporate luxury booked out." In the corner of one image, nearly out of frame, sat Rachel's Etsy-made wooden sign. She'd had it hand-painted in calligraphy "Forever starts here." Now it read, "Success starts here." I stared at it for a long time, coffee warm in my hands. Aunt Lydia messaged me that afternoon. "Hi, sweetheart. I just wanted to check in. Rachel's devastated. Your mom is beside herself." I stared at her text before replying. She said I'd ruin her photos. I took that seriously. No one else messaged after that. At least not until the group chat lit up that evening. Not mine, their family thread. A cousin forwarded screenshots, mom blaming Emma, blaming the venue, blaming Mercury in retrograde. Rachel chimed in with her usual poison. She's always been jealous. That one hit. Not like a slap, like a sigh. Jealous of what? Of always standing behind the lens of being erased and told to smile about it. No, I wasn't jealous. I was done. She showed up the next morning, no warning, no text, just sharp knocks, 3 of them, like the door owed her something. When I opened it, Caroline Blake stood there, breath tight, blazer-wrinkled mascara dried into the creases under her eyes. "You think this proves something?" she hissed. I didn't flinch. "No," I said. "I know it does." She stared at me, waiting for the version of Grace she remembered. The one who apologized just for breathing too loud. The one who'd clean up the mess before anyone asked. But that version had stopped answering the door. "You humiliated your sister." I looked at her for a long time. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just less towering. "She humiliated me," I said. "You did too, for years." She opened her mouth, maybe to deny it. I didn't give her the space. "I bought the venue. I paid for the honeymoon. I covered bills you never admitted missing. I carried this family so quietly you all forgot there was weight involved." Her jaw clenched. "We didn't mean—" "You meant every bit of it," I cut in. "Every time you left me out of the frame. Every time you pretended I wasn't worth standing next to. You just didn't think I'd stop showing up." She took a step forward like she wanted to argue, like she had a speech prepared. I didn't let her use it. "You said I'd ruin the pictures, so I took myself out, and then I took the frame." She stood there trembling, but nothing came. No apology, no tearful moment, just silence. Finally, I added one more thing, not bitter, not sharp, just truth. "You can tell Rachel I'm not angry. I'm free. That's a better gift than anything on her registry." Then I closed the door. Gently. No slam, no final word. Only the soft click of something finished. A month passed, then 2. No calls, no olive branches, no sudden awakenings. And that was fine. I started having dinner with Eli twice a week. Just the 2 of us. No tension, no performance. We talked about work movies, things we missed in each other's lives. Sometimes we even laughed about the great wedding disaster, as he quietly started calling it. He'd called me the day after I pulled the honeymoon fund. "If they're going to act like you don't exist," he said, "then I'm not pretending they're saints." He never raised his voice, never took sides, just showed up. That was enough. Every now and then, I'd get a quiet message from someone who'd been at the venue, a cousin, an old neighbor, a vendor. They never said it directly, but the tone was always the same. "I saw what you did. I get it. You were right to step out." I didn't need their validation. I didn't need anything really, because I finally had something I hadn't tasted in years. Peace. Not the fragile kind that depends on keeping everyone happy. The kind that comes from knowing you don't owe anyone your silence anymore. I didn't post. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. They had built their lives on perfect angles, poses, and filters, and curated moments. They thought erasing me would protect their picture. Instead, what I gave them was a truth they couldn't crop out. No one remembered Rachel's dress. They remembered waiting in heels outside a locked gate. They remembered champagne flutes served to strangers. They remembered asking, didn't they have help? And eventually someone whispered, maybe Rachel isn't the victim here. That was enough. They tried to write me out of the picture. So I took the frame. And I burned it. I woke up early that Friday. My suitcase was already zipped from the night before, 2 changes of clothes, a sweater in case the cabin got cold, and a bottle of wine I'd been saving since Christmas. Mom had said the whole family would be there. Your father's rented something nice up in Yosemite, she told me on the phone, her voice brighter than usual. You'll finally get a break, Marie. It had been a long time since that kind of invitation felt warm. But I said yes. By 7:10, I was parked in front of their house just like she asked. The van was already out front, one of those oversized black Sprinter things with tinted windows and a private driver who looked more confused than friendly. He held a clipboard in his hand and asked, "Name Marie Carter," I said. He scanned the list, scanned again, then looked up. "I'm not seeing you here, ma'am." I thought he was joking, but the clipboard didn't smile. Just then, the side door slid open and Ryan, my younger brother, leaned out grinning like we were at a college reunion. "Sis, he said you made it." "Apparently not," I replied, nodding to the clipboard. Ryan shrugged. "Yeah, about that. This trip's kind of for people who still show up, you know." He held up a champagne flute already half empty. "You're always working. We figured you'd understand." Inside the van, I caught a glimpse of Mom Helen Carter curled up against the window with her sunglasses on. She didn't wave. Dad Richard was fiddling with a Bluetooth speaker. No one looked surprised to see me there, but no one made room either. I nodded once. Not out of agreement, just acknowledgement. Then I stepped away, reached into my coat pocket and opened the banking app on my phone. 3 swipes, 1 click, a confirmation screen. Family expense card frozen. The driver glanced at me again, but I was already walking back to my car. No one called out. No one asked why. On the drive home, the bottle of wine rattled gently in the passenger seat, unopened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even speed. I just sat with it, the weight of being almost invited. Turns out I didn't need to be on the list to end up paying for the trip. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about slow erasure, you don't notice it until the space you used to fill is just gone. It started with a phone call back in 2012. Dad Richard had lost some hours at work. Just a rough patch, he said. "The mortgage is fine. We're not asking for money." But by the end of that call, I'd offered to co-sign a refinancing. It felt like the right thing to do. Then it was Mom's dental surgery. $6,000. She cried on the phone, said the pain was keeping her up at night. I told her not to worry. I paid the bill directly to the clinic. Later, I overheard her at a family BBQ telling Aunt June she'd managed to handle it herself after some clever budgeting. She didn't even glance at me. When Ryan got caught up in some gambling mess, something about a bad loan and a friend who disappeared with the money, I wired $5,000 into his account. He said it was a one-time disaster. 2 months later, he posted a photo from Coachella with a caption, "Worth every penny." He didn't tag me, of course. That Christmas, I bought a new space heater and had it delivered to their house overnight because Mom said the furnace was making noises again. She sent back a thank you by forwarding me a coupon for flannel sheets. "You should get some rest," she wrote. "You work too hard." Every family dinner, I was either taking a work call in the kitchen or updating their Wi-Fi settings while everyone else was having dessert. When Ryan showed up with store-bought pie, they lit candles. At one point, I told myself it was just timing, that I lived farther away, that my job made me less available. But the truth was, they never asked me to be present, only to be useful. Last summer, Dad called during my lunch break. He couldn't remember his online banking password. I reset it remotely. A week later, a transfer went out to a car, detailing shop under Ryan's name. When I asked about it, Dad said he needed help getting on his feet. You know how it is. And I did. That was the problem. Every time they needed something, I showed up. Not physically, Ryan had that role. He brought bags of chips, forgot to take out the trash left early. But he was there. And apparently presence outweighed provision. They framed Ryan as the loyal son, the one who stayed close. I was the background process, invisible, but essential. You only notice when it's gone. Last Thanksgiving, I sent a card with a handwritten note. A real one. I signed it with Love, Marie. It didn't show up on the mantle. There was a group photo, though. Ryan holding the carving knife like a trophy. Dad's arm around him. Mom's smiling cheeks flushed. Someone had used a filter that made the table glow gold. There was an empty chair at the corner. I recognized the sweater draped over the back. It was the one I left there the year before. They had literally edited me out of my own seat. And still I kept paying. One more month, one more bill, one more quiet contribution. Not because they asked, but because not helping felt like betrayal. And maybe I thought deep down if I just kept saying yes, they'd eventually see me. They didn't. The calls started before noon. First, it was Mom, a voicemail voice high and brittle. "Marie, something's wrong with the reservation. The card's not working. Did you maybe change something?" Then Dad, sounding irritated more than concerned. "Can you just fix it?" "We're standing at the front desk like fools." I didn't answer. The texts came next, frantic, overlapping. Ryan sent a selfie of him and Mom outside the lodge, thumbs down with the caption, "Family trip cut short." Some people can't let go. No context, just the insinuation. I muted the group chat. Instead, I called Jasmine. She'd been a quiet friend for years, former co-worker turned IT security consultant. We met once a month for coffee when our schedules aligned, which wasn't often. The last time I saw her, I'd helped fix her aunt's estate taxes. She said she owed me a favor. "I just want to know if anything weird's been happening under my name," I told her. I didn't expect much. Maybe a missed subscription or a duplicate account somewhere. But Jasmine was thorough. 2 days later, she sent an encrypted folder. Inside, a credit card application from 3 weeks prior. My name, my birthday, my social, Ryan's address. A flagged login attempt to my retirement account from an unfamiliar device tagged Carter Home. A customer service call to my health insurance provider voice recorded it was Mom pretending to be me. She'd tried to update my mailing address and add a dependent named Ryan. The cold didn't hit all at once. It crept in slow like air from a door you didn't realize was open. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about permission, about how easily they assumed I wouldn't notice. Or worse, that I would notice and still say nothing. I sat in my apartment that night, lights off, laptop open. The bottle of wine still unopened on the counter. I didn't need it. The sharpness was already in my chest. Ryan had borrowed $5,000 and never paid it back. Dad had slipped charges under my name. Mom had impersonated me, and I'd brought them pie. For years, I let the benefit of the doubt cushion everything. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was just stress. Maybe they meant to ask, but forgot. But the signatures were clear. The dates lined up. The transactions weren't mistakes. They were habits. I didn't text them back. I didn't explain. I just stared at the screen and let the silence settle thick and final. If they wanted me to play the villain, I could be one. But I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in proof. I started with the easy things, screenshots of bank transfers I hadn't authorized, statements with charges that didn't belong to me. $140 here, $78 there. Most of them small enough to go unnoticed, but they added up not just in dollars, but in disregard. Then came the Venmo logs. Ryan had sent his girlfriend $500 marked for the cabin. The same weekend he told me he was short on rent. The same cabin I wasn't invited to. I pulled email records next. A flagged alert from my tax software. Someone had tried to access my account from an unknown IP. Timestamped at 3:14 a.m., 2 days after I'd frozen the family card. I went back to the insurance call. Jasmine had clipped the audio cleanly. I listened once, twice, and then a third time, Mom's voice, calm and pleasant, answering security questions like she'd done it 100 times. Yes, that's her birthday. Yes, she's added a dependent. His name is Ryan Carter. There wasn't a single tremor in her voice. I remembered how the week before she texted me, "Hope you're staying warm. It's cold up here without you." That apparently had been the truth, just not in the way I thought. I began organizing everything. A folder on my desktop titled, "What Family Costs." Inside, bank statements with notes. Screenshots of Ryan's social media posts mocking bitter people who don't show up. The recording of Mom's insurance call. An email from Dad dated 6 months ago. "Can you move the car payment from my account to yours just temporarily? Don't tell your mother, she worries." And then one last file. A photo from Thanksgiving. Everyone around the table laughing. My chair empty. A pie I had shipped still in the box, unopened. In the corner, Brittany, my cousin, grinning at something Ryan had said. I remembered she used to laugh when I got corrected in front of people. She still did. I stared at that photo longer than the others. Not because it hurt more, but because it didn't surprise me anymore. There's a kind of grief that doesn't come from loss, but from finally seeing what was never there. I wasn't grieving what I'd lost. I was grieving what I had pretended to have. I backed up the folder twice, once to a cloud drive, once to a USB I kept taped under my desk. I BCC'd it to Jasmine and to my lawyer, labeled only with the initials WFC. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I wasn't planning to send it to anyone, not yet. But I needed to hold the truth somewhere outside my head. When you've spent years gaslit by kindness, by phrases like, "You're just too sensitive," or "You always take things the wrong way," you start to lose your grip on what's real. This folder was real. I didn't need an apology. I didn't even need them to understand. I just needed a record, proof that I hadn't imagined any of it. The next morning, I printed the cover page, 3 words in bold black type: "What family costs." Then I placed it in an envelope and slid it under the mirror in my hallway. Not for them, for me, so that the next time I started doubting myself, I'd know where to look. The invitation went out on a Wednesday morning. Subject line: Family Finances 15 minutes. No explanation. Just a link and a time. Friday at 7:00 p.m. Mom replied with a thumbs up emoji. Dad sent back thanks for being the adult. Ryan didn't respond. At 6:58, I sat at my kitchen table laptop, opened the bottle of wine still untouched beside me. I'd never wanted a drink less. They joined right on time. Mom had curled her hair. Dad wore a collared shirt like he thought this was a job interview. Ryan showed up last, chewing gum, chin resting in his hand. No one asked how I was. I didn't speak. Instead, I shared my screen. A folder appeared, titled "What Family Costs." The first slide was a bank statement, a $600 transfer from my checking account to an auto parts supplier. Billing address: Ryan Carter. Dad leaned forward, squinting. The next was an email from Mom's Gmail, left logged in on my iPad last Christmas. Marie always helps. She won't even notice. Mom flinched. The third, a photo from Thanksgiving. My empty chair, the untouched pie. Brittany's smile frozen like punctuation. I didn't explain any of it. I clicked to the final slide. A voice recording played, Mom answering questions on a health insurance call, pretending to be me. The audio was clear, the answers confident. When it ended, the room, even virtual, went still. Dad was the first to speak. "Marie," he said, measured, we didn't mean harm. You've just always been good with these things." Ryan rolled his eyes. "Jesus, it's a bunch of bills. You're blowing up the family over spreadsheets." Mom's voice cracked. "We were struggling. We thought you understood." I looked at them, my parents, my brother. Faces I'd known my whole life, suddenly unfamiliar. "I did," I said quietly. "I understood everything." No one spoke. I ended the call. There was no announcement, no final word, just a blank screen and the soft click of disconnection. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I felt gravity, the kind that comes when something finally settles where it belongs. Not one of them called back that night. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I didn't write a farewell note or send a dramatic group message. I just started making calls. First to the mortgage company. I had co-signed the house loan 12 years ago, back when Dad said he couldn't qualify on his own. I filed the release of liability paperwork, submitted copies of their income, and got confirmation within 48 hours. Next was the bank. I revoked every shared authorization the backup card Mom used, just in case the joint account Dad had quietly funneled utilities through the auto payments Ryan had linked to my name. Each login, each cancellation felt like lifting a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. I contacted my accountant. Years ago, I'd set up a small trust, nothing fancy, just leftover investments and bonds I didn't touch. My family had been listed as secondary beneficiaries. That changed. Now the trust pointed to a fund for first-generation college students. I didn't need to know their names. I just needed to know they weren't mine. I moved the next week, not far, but far enough. I didn't update my address with anyone but my HR department. My new lease was signed under a privacy service. The utility bills were in my name, mine alone, routed through a secure third party. No one could spoof them this time. I bought a second phone loaded with a new SIM, new contacts, a new number. The original one went into a drawer. I turned it off without looking at the notifications. It would stay off a graveyard of names that once knew how to find me but no longer had permission to. It wasn't revenge. I wasn't interested in watching them suffer or wonder where I'd gone. I just didn't want to be reachable. They had treated me like infrastructure, quiet, reliable, and always available. I wasn't anymore. The only letter I sent was to the family's landlord, a copy of the release paperwork, a copy of the unpaid rent history, a single line. Please remove me from this arrangement. I am no longer responsible. He called to confirm. Sounded stunned. Said, "They always talk like you volunteered." I laughed just once. They talk like I didn't have a choice. And maybe for a long time I didn't, but now I did. And I chose to disappear not from spite, but from self-respect. 6 months passed. Quietly, like fog rolling over a road, I no longer drove. In that time, no one knocked on my door. No surprise visits. No letters with return addresses I recognized. Just stillness. The kind that doesn't echo the kind that replaces apology with absence. I learned new rhythms. My new apartment was small, white-walled with dark floors that creaked in the morning. The coffee shop 2 blocks down knew my name, but nothing else. My fridge was full. My phone only rang for people I chose to keep. I never reached for the old phone. Not once. But sometimes word found me anyway. A former classmate forwarded a Facebook post from Mom, a blurry photo of their half-lit living room. Caption: "Sometimes the people you raise forget who raised them." Ryan had liked it. Then commented, "Some people only show up when the lights are on." I didn't laugh, but I did close the app. Last I'd heard, the power had been shut off again. Aunt June called one afternoon. Said if you'd just explained how bad it was, I hung up before she finished. They all knew, but knowing means acting, and acting means risk. It's easier to watch someone carry weight than to help them put it down. The final message came from Dad, an envelope with crooked handwriting and blue ink. 3 pages of legacy talk. Bloodlines. A plea to put things back together. I tore it in half. Then in half again. Then again until it fit inside 5 envelopes. No return address. He sent another letter. Shorter. Angrier. "You'll regret this. You're still our daughter whether you like it or not." I sent one final reply. One sentence bold and centered. I was never yours. I was just useful. I never heard from him again. The new rug arrived that Friday. Gray background. Clean font. I laid it outside my door and stepped over it as I came back from groceries. It read, "Not your emergency exit." And that was enough. You don't have to explain what happened. Not to them, not even here. Maybe you were the one who paid, stayed quiet, kept showing up until one day you didn't. Maybe they still don't understand why. But if this story felt like something you've never said out loud, just leave a sign that you're still here. A single word they never said to you. A dot. A date. Or nothing at all. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer. You don't have to go back. Just let us know you made it out.